This is a podcast from the Queen City Podcast Network.
Art Star, TBJ, Professor Andy, Jackass Joe,
Nerd School in session, bringing knowledge, no aggression.
Nerd School Podcast, History for Jerks, Nerd School Podcast, History for Jerks.
Bringing knowledge, no aggression.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nerd School Podcast. My name is Andy. I am sort of a nerdy professor sort of type because I know a lot of nerd things, and I used to write about them professionally. With us is the mighty Art Star, who likes Gambit and Darth Vader and the Sith.
Fuck you, Andy.
And TBJ, who hates those things and likes
I don't
the guys.
hate Gambit.
She doesn't hate Gambit.
Why not? He sucks.
I don't have any feelings either way.
Gambit does not suck.
No, I'm not saying I like him. I'm just saying I don't have an immense hate for him.
Gambit doesn't suck. Just his powers are stupid and he looks dumb.
Anyway, welcome back to a new episode of Nerd School, where we get back into the MCU and go on a journey to Black Widow with Joe's favorite woman of all of Hollywood.
Oh my gosh.
Joe.
Well, and now this is the first thing in phase 4, right? This is our first phase 4 adventure, I think.
Yes, I believe so. This was the
phase 5.
Phase 4.
I was right.
4. This was the kickoff, and it was it came right around during the pandemic, and the release of it got a little swallowed up in the national disaster.
It threw some things off, yeah.
Yeah, and ScarJo had to sue because of it, and I don't blame her.
So, payment contracts, get your money.
But right. Florence Pugh might be my new favorite.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She is so good. She is an unbelievable actor. Just like she makes you cry with just a twinge of a facial change. I mean, that's a masterclass on acting in this movie. I thought
she's just very good in general. If you see anything of her, you're like, oh my god, how is she this damn talented?
Yeah, I know what else did she do? I know she was in that one about the weird cult in the Midsummer, yeah. But
then she was in the movie with
It's called Don't. Is it Don't?
Nope.
No.
Not Nope. It's like this 1950s like Stepford Wives kind of
thing.
But
that's not the name of it's Chris Pine is in it.
It's Don't something.
That's a weird name for a movie. Is Chris Pine is in it.
I bet they could name a movie that, but Chris Pine is in it, and it would still sell well.
Yeah, it would. It's gonna bother me not having the name of the movie on my head, but it's basically where dudes kidnap women and put them in psychosis and live in a false reality.
Yikes.
Like dudes want to do.
She's in some heavy shit.
Yeah, no, she's in it. Good.
She is fabulous. I love her, and she's badass.
And this movie, and this movie leads into the Hawkeye series, which you've also already watched.
Yeah, so I will admit,
Don't Worry, Darling is what it's called. I
What's
knew
it called?
Started with Don't.
Yes,
Don't Worry, Darling.
That sounds familiar. I will admit, I had to several times stop this and ask Siri because now I have an iPhone. I had to ask, what did this come out before? Because I can't remember which came out first. And do we already know her? What's the deal? I had to stop right when we started. I had to stop and be like, okay, what the fuck is happening? What part of the, and it was confusing because this came out after Endgame and all that, but it takes place takes place in that little time when she's on the run
between Civil War and before Infinity War.
But as Art said, it was delayed 3 times before it ever released.
Oh, so the movie was delayed. So they originally were going to do it before pandemic type of thing, or was it delayed because of pandemic strike, or what was the? You guys remember?
It was because they had started to shut down, and then they pushed it, and then and it was weird because the marketing for it came out way beforehand.
So
you could go into let's say Walmart and you can buy like all this Black Widow stuff. Action figures came out, and then it's like, oh, pandemic happened, and they kept pushing it. They kept pushing it. The action figures kind of it didn't necessarily spoil the movie, but it was like all of the stuff that no one had knew what was this promoting. The action figures got clearance. They got pushed. They got pushed. Then that's when they came out with this clever thing that they would do where they had what they call premiere releases, where you could either go to the theater and watch it or spend $30 and watch it at home. Because, social distancing and everything.
Right. Yeah, I remember people paying big money to watch movies like that at home. Big new movies at home.
Yeah.
I don't think
it was supposed to be released in May of 2020 and got delayed 3 times and did not actually get released until June 29th, 2021.
Oh.
And then it was released on Disney Plus again, like the premiere thing, on July 9th.
Well, that was also, when it was released the first time, it was released like at red carpet events. It didn't come to all theaters until the 9th in theaters and at home.
Right.
So, like they had like their red carpet events.
Yeah. Yeah, I vaguely remember us getting together and talking about the fact that this might change movie releases forever. Like, is this going to be the thing now? Like, you can pay $30 to see a brand new movie at home. I remember thinking that's what's going to be the thing now. It's definitely not the thing. It's definitely still.
But now it's not as bad. But now, like, depending on what the movie does in the theater, the turnaround time is ridiculous. Whereas, like, you can stream it at home. It's not like it's like readily available to everyone. You still have to purchase it, but it'll be like the movie comes out today, and in less than, usually it'll be like 45 days before it even hit like video on demand. But now sometimes it's like a couple of weeks later.
A lot sooner. Yeah.
Boom, here it is.
And, it's causing a lot of people to go, why are we releasing anything in theaters?
Yeah, it's like, am I going to spend this $19 to see it when it comes out, or am I going to wait 2 weeks to spend $19 and have the whole family sit around and watch it? Especially with the concessions.
Yeah, as expensive as everything is now, but I think it's smart to make all these new buckets that everybody wants, these collector buckets.
Oh, those prices on
what you need to do is go to the movies with me, where you go on Tuesdays before 5:00, then it's $5, and then you get the kids meal, which gives you popcorn, a small drink, and fruit snacks for $6 and some change, and you're in the movie.
Can you get the commemorative bucket, which sells for like $38 for $5?
Yeah, I'm not buying the bucket. I'm gonna put on my wares that is on theme with the movie. I'm gonna enjoy my friends, but I'm also not paying more than $20 for entrance and my little bit of a snack in the movie, because we like it frugal over here. Because I still like a movie theater experience, but your girl's on a budget.
Is Tuesdays cheaper than every other day?
Yes. Anytime before 5:00 is cheap, but Tuesday before 5:00 is $5 a day.
Okay.
That's over where I live.
These are first run movies? Okay. So like Wolverine, Deadpool, I can see on a Tuesday?
Before 5:00.
At 11?
Yep.
I almost did that.
You're not far from us. Come on to Sun Valley.
I know. Yeah, that's where I would go probably, especially if knowing that now, because I don't know. I think I would pay the $30 to watch Wolverine Deadpool now at home, because this is the first movie in a long time I've thought about going to a theater, because I haven't been. I don't remember the last movie.
I'm gonna tell you, because I think, Andy, you said you did it too. I would see it in 3D. Like,
yeah, and apparently Art's never seen a movie in 3D before.
I have not seen a Marvel movie in 3D.
Oh, man.
Crazy. I gotta say, because when I saw the first Avengers movie and in 3D, and that popped so much in the big climactic the alien invasion, it's really, I think, brought it home a lot. So I mean, not all 3D is great,
but I would do the full IMAX experience.
I thought about doing IMAX too, but
not some of the little IMAXs that the theater do, but like the full Discovery Place version of IMAX.
Yeah,
that's a good watch.
A big one.
But that's also a pricey watch.
That is, you have to decide if you are going into this as a full-fledged, this is a night out if you're gonna do that in IMAX. But it's worth it. I saw The Dark Knight like that and it changed my life.
Oh yeah, I saw Dark Knight on a huge freaking screen. Oh,
I feel like now
so
all of my superhero movies will be in 3D. 3D or
so here's my only knock on 3D, and maybe I'm just being a negative Nancy, but I feel like at the first like 10 minutes, it's like, holy shit, so great. And that's like your eyes adjust to it, and then you don't notice it's 3D anymore. Is that just me?
You notice the 3D.
Okay.
You notice the 3D. Like just because it was beautiful.
Deadpool Wolverine, they're liable to throw a dildo at me or something.
Yeah.
On the screen.
There was a lot of
and you would love it. And you would love it.
Have you seen Wolverine and Deadpool, TBJ?
No.
Okay.
It is.
I have not been to the movie
fun.
since Inside Out 2 a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
The Deadpool Wolverine is a lot of fun. It's also very much up its own ass and the MCU's ass in being self-referential, which is what you expect.
Oh, it does a lot of that. A lot of
that, but it knows it is,
but it is also it's Wade, so it's a lot of it is you would expect him to reference things that people shouldn't or should not be talking about.
Right.
Well, speaking of referencing things, let's reference Black Widow because that's what we're talking about. It's just to void off any possible spoilers. We don't want to give any spoilers yet, but we will give spoilers for Black Widow. If you haven't seen that, you've had plenty of time to see it. Came out in 2021. That's 3 years ago.
And do we want to talk about the big Comic-Con news
before we jump into Black Widow?
No, let's do Black Widow, and then if we have time at the end, we'll talk about it.
Oh,
we'll do this first. Black Widow first.
Yeah. Let's get the job done, and then maybe we'll talk about it more.
Do the job.
So we haven't been doing our little thing where I go through the entire movie in a long time, but we have been doing a TBJ quick 30-second through. Do you have that ready?
You have one? You have one queued up? This is like a TBJ freestyle.
Yeah.
Is it a freestyle? I didn't prep one because I thought we were just doing it over our summer.
Right. So if you that's why I said it's probably going to be a freestyle.
I think from now on, I love those. I think those are the best, and then we can talk about it, but we don't have to. It's just if you're not ready for it.
That's fine. Let's go real quick. All right, we open the movie. Some kids are outside. They're playing in the yard. They're sisters. They seem to like each other, but there's a little animosity between the older sister and the younger sister. She gets hurt. Mom saves it. You're like, oh, this is such a wholesome family. They're learning about fireflies. It's cute. They go in the house. Dad gets home from work. Everything seems fine. We're having dinner. Suddenly, Dad's like, we got an hour. Mom's like, I'm sorry to the Otis. Turns out they were spies. They leave. They get on a plane. It's a bunch of battle. You know who they're fighting? We all know who they're fighting. Art or Andy, chime in. The team we're fighting.
The American Army.
Hydra?
Right?
Is it Hydra?
No.
Shield.
Russians? Shield?
There we go.
Right.
Shield is after them. They're chasing them down. They get away on the plane. Mama's shot. She's a badass. They land. This is where we fully discover they are not only spies, but they are spies who actually do not know each other. They are not actually the children of mom and dad. Mom goes off. Dad is like, yo, promote me because I did the thing you told me to do. And the kids are separated and taken to a horde place. All right. Fast forward. We are dropped in the middle of what's going on with the Avengers. Black Widow's on the run because shit's deep, okay? Shit's deep. We're in the middle of a war with each other. It's fine. Yeah. So she's off the grid. Meanwhile, we also flash over to Yelena, which is her sister, all grown up, on a mission. They're trying to acquire a target. They're a badass all-women's team. As she goes to fight the target, there's some red shit that goes off in her face. Boom, she's magically cured. Who am I? Why am I fighting my friend? Why is she bloody? She don't know. She gets the vials. She goes off. She sends the vials to her sister. Her sister gets the vials because she's supposed to be off the grid. So she's like, what is this? And then this crazy machine comes after her. We think it's a machine. Later we find out it's not really a machine. But this thing is a beast. And it's like mimicking her moves. And they're fighting on the bridge. And she thinks they're coming after her because she's Black Widow. Then she figures out, oh, no, you don't want me. You're here for this shit. Okay, cool. Fast forward. She realizes, I know who sent this to me. Let me go back. She goes back to the old apartment from 1,000 years ago. in there, she comes up on her sister. But again, they're not regular sisters. So their greeting is not like, oh, girl, I love you. It's like, I got a gun to your face. Let's battle. They battle because they can't trust each other because that's the way they were raised in the program. They finally come to blows. They get it together, call a truce. They figure out what's going on. Boom, 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 reunion. Boom. People are after them again. Oh, they got to fight their way out. They get out. They are bonded together, but they still don't trust each other because, you know, their childhood was fucked up. But they're out. Black Widow's like, let's kill the dude who's in charge of all this. He manipulated all of us. Let's go. Yelena's like, I don't know if that's the move, girl. I never made decisions for myself. This is crazy. They go. The first thing they got to do is break out Dad, okay? Dad is superhuman. He's the Captain America of their team. He's a superhuman. He's got all the strength, but he's been in prison for a while. So they get this crazy helicopter thing looking, and they go break out Dad. He's hyped. For some reason, he's like, oh, my girls. Again, they're not really his girls, okay? He dropped them when they were like really little to go on his missions. They rescue him. It's cool. There's an avalanche and everything. We're all good. They're like, yo, help us kill this dude. He was like your BFF. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it. But then they convince him. They got to go find Mom. Again, not Mom, but gonna go find Mom because she's the scientist to the evil dude. They go find Mom. They go. She's training pigs. Side note, I love pigs. They're adorable. Then they learn all of this. They get their little family spat. Like, it was real for me. Was it real for you? No, we're not really family. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody's fighting. Boom. Fast forward. They're under attack. The big crazy man has come to get them. We think, oh no, it's the end. So they get arrested. They go on the plane. We think Mom is the one who's got everyone caught up. Oops, surprise, it's not really Mom. It's ScarJo with those crazy face things she puts on in her spy world. Then Mom and Dad are breaking out. They got a mission. Yelena's about to get her head cut open, but she's got a mission in her ear. And then ScarJo's got a mission to kill the man. She can't kill him because something about his pheromones are messing everybody up, kills their instincts. This is where we find out that monster dude is not a monster dude. It's his daughter that Black Widow had blown up years ago when trying to murder the man she thought was already dead. Okay, we go through all this. We battle. He shows the secrets. He beats up ScarJo because she belittles him. And you think, is she crazy? Why is she belittling him? Because that's dangerous, girl. He can murder you in 2 seconds. She's smart. She's got a plan. That's why she's Black Widow. She figures it out. She gets him to break her nose because that breaks his ability to keep a hold on her with his pheromone scent. Ta-da! He also lets her know
Sever the nerve.
Agents everywhere. And he brings up the map and you can see them all. And she's like, damn it. Fast forward, they figure it out. Their job is release the little sparkly dust on over all the widows while they're in their little training. But they get out. They come attack ScarJo. It's not cute. It's very sad. I was like, oh, what happened to girl power? This is not it when the women's teams are kicking butt in the Olympics. I need girl power right now. But whatever. Yes. Yelena comes in. She shoots off. I think she had an arrow. I can't remember. Whatever. She gets a shut off. They try to get out of the building. The building's falling apart because it's in the sky. I forgot to say this part. The building's in the sky. So everybody's trying to escape. Mom and Dad are on their helicopter trying to get out. Scarlett is trying to get out. Yelena's trying to get out. There's all these battles. Odu's trying to get out. That little crazy creature that turns out to be his daughter all along is trying to get out. Crazy battle. Shit's blowing up everywhere. Well, it's fine. Everyone survives. We think all is good. We think everything's fine until that murderous creature comes out the sky aiming for ScarJo. Okay, she thought she saved everybody. She saved her sister. Mom and Dad are safe. Here comes the creature. She lets Yelena go, and then she battles it out. But then she saves her too. She sparkles the red dust in her face, and she figures out, this is crazy. Everybody who's supposed to die dies. Everybody who's supposed to live lives. The widows come back. They take Yelena and the monster girl off. She's not really a monster. That's just what I thought of her for most of the movie. They take her off. They go on the plane with Mom and Dad. They're family now. They got this. ScarJo is like, I got to go save my other family. Meanwhile, S.H.I.E.L.D. is on the trace because they're hunting her ass down because, the war. So she goes off. She gets it together. She connects with who she's supposed to connect with. She escapes. Yelena's off with the widows. Then we see her go off and she has the Avengers plane. And we know she's on a mission to break out the Avengers. We roll credits because we think everything's okay. And then there's a scene later that picks up where we see a character that we see at the end of the other Captain America TV series.
Yeah,
I think I got everything.
Shoulder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boom.
Nice.
There you go.
That's a great shorthand. Although I would thunderstorm happening here. I think it's General Ross. I don't know if he's technically Shield or not because I can't remember it. Like Shield.
The cars have Shield on them.
Oh, really? All right. Well, then there they go. I didn't notice that or register.
Boom. Never question TBJ's speed through.
Oh, I forgot to say in there, she does hit the button to release the mind control over millions of women around the world.
Yes. They go to release them all. That was excellent. Yes.
That's Black Widow Tiffany's version. You're welcome.
And
That's my favorite thing.
This film features I'll do my little comic history brief. God dang it. Sorry.
Andy's specialty, go.
The characters introduced in this film that we hadn't seen before include Yelena Belova, who was created in 1999 by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee in an Inhuman series of all things. She was not a sister to Natasha because in the comics, Natasha has been around since, I think World War II or something. They sort of like Winter Soldier kind of thing. It was kind of based on that as well. So, but she was another agent of the Red Room that Natasha kind of got to and kind of showed her how she's being manipulated, and she kind of broke off and went her own path. And now,
so the whole Red Room and all that was all already in the comics. That's cool.
Yeah, Red Room is Natasha's backstory is like the assassin factory. Dreykov, Ray Winstone's character, is not a direct. I think he's sort of an amalgamation of a bunch of different characters in Black Widow history, so he's not a direct one-to-one.
Okay.
Yelena, she was kind of like a villain for a while. She was involved with AIM, the Advanced Idea Mechanics, and she was actually killed. And then they sort of brought her back. Natasha somehow, I think there was a clone involved that took memories from the dead Yelena, and then is now more. I think it was a way to make her more MCU friendly, because she was such a popular character in this and in the Hawkeye series.
So she was never. That character was never in the Thunderbolts comics that are coming out?
There's been a lot of iterations of the Thunderbolts. So she might have been in some of them. And she's got her own series now called White Widow, where she wears white all the time. But she's
in comic books?
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
She's got her own comic series, not her own.
Florence Pugh doesn't have a TV series.
Eventually, I think she will get her own series because
she probably will because she's great.
We've also got the Red Guardian, Alexei, who was created in 1967 by Roy Thomas and John Buscema. There's been a lot of Red Guardians, a lot of people inhabiting that, the Russian Captain America sort of thing.
And Crimson Dynamo and him are synonymous or not synonymous?
They're not synonymous. Crimson Dynamo is a different dude. He's an Iron Man villain. He has like a big armored suit, like a big old Russian. There's two big Russian armored dudes because Tony Stark was big in the Cold War, and Russian guys stealing American technology is a big through line. There's the Titanium Man, Crimson Dynamo and Titanium Man, which is also, I believe, coincidentally, a Paul McCartney and Wings song.
Oh, geez, that's a deep dive.
Yeah.
I just asked because there's a
no, Magneto and Titanium Man is the name of the song.
Oh,
but Crimson Dynamo was referenced in that song, I believe. But no, they make a joke that they reference Crimson Dynamo, and he goes, "No, it's Red Guardian. I am the Red Guardian." But he's not.
It's Yelena that calls him that. Or what are you, Crimson Dynamo? And so that's why I wondered if they were synonymous or if it was some sort of a.
And don't forget the well, I guess
there's also. I'm not done.
Go yeah, all right.
There's also Rachel Weisz's character, Melina Vostokova, who is also known as the Iron Maiden, who created in 1983 by Ralph Macchio, not the Karate Kid, and George Perez.
Wait, what? There's a Ralph Macchio? It's a comic book guy that's not Karate Kid?
There's a guy named Ralph Macchio who wrote for Marvel Comics, and I believe
there's two Ralph Macchios that are famous? That's awesome. Everyone should be. From now on, we're all Ralph Macchios.
Yes. And George Perez is one of the greatest comic artists ever of all time. He's
really
incredibly detailed. He did a whole lot of work for Marvel and DC throughout the 70s and 80s, and it's his art there. I was reading some Avengers when I first started reading Avengers was the Kurt Busiek, George Perez run, and is the first time I kind of realized how samey comic book art can be, in that like he had like panels where Captain America and Hawkeye, both two blonde white men, talking to each other in the same panel, and they actually looked like different people. Whereas their faces looked different, they were built different. Whereas
whereas every other comic, every person that's the same hair color looks the same, right?
Like you only tell them apart because of the costume they're wearing a lot of times, because they both generally have the same.
But this one, you're saying he had like facial structure differences and things.
Yeah.
Comics
Hawkeye was a little like broader jawed, and Steve Rogers was a bit more svelte. It was just like that's when I first kind of noticed a detail that I'd been missing in comics in that one. So the George Perez is fantastic, and Iron Maiden Melina is a Black Widow villain as well. Oddly enough, I meant to say Red Guardian Alexei was not Natasha's father figure in any way. She was actually, since in the comic books they were married for a while.
Ooh.
But they weren't.
Only because he shows up as her dad in this movie. But if you never watched the movie, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, that's true.
And Red Guardian was also the group, I believe, of a team called the Soviet Super Soldiers that had a whole bunch of others. They even mentioned a guy that one of the guys who's arm wrestling in prison, he calls Ursa.
Yeah,
that's probably Ursa Major, who was a guy who turns into a bear.
It is Ursa Major, Art Star?
Yeah.
Confirming it?
But he's also...
And that guy
I guess also because at this point we don't have mutants. So it's like... It's Marvel has been doing all these deep cuts, and I won't say it's fan service, but it's like if you know kind of things. So if you know kind of a little bit of the lore of like Black Widow and all of them, and the Widows and stuff like that, you'll pick up that this guy is somebody, But go ahead.
Yeah, and he's Ursa Major. He turns into a bear, a big Russian bear. I think the October Guard in G.I. Joe might be kind of based on these guys, like a Russian G.I. Joe team.
Okay.
Sort of like that.
Ursa Major. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. First I've heard of that. I had no idea. Okay.
There's also a Dark Star. Crimson Dynamo and Titanium Man, I believe, are both on the Soviet Super Soldiers as well.
Were they in that prison too?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure they'll show up at some point. And then finally, the big giant robot monster that TBJ described, who turns out to be Dreyfuss's daughter, is actually based on character Taskmaster. They call him at the beginning. They refer to him as the Taskmaster Project. Is that whole thing?
Yes, and he copies everyone's powers.
Yeah, that's the power Taskmaster has. But Taskmaster in the comics is a dude named Anthony Masters. Created in 1980 by David Michelinie and George Perez, and he was more of a mercenary type, he made a business out of training henchmen for other supervillains. Like he was a guy, he had a school for henchmen. Basically, if you wanted to be in Hydra or AIM, or you wanted to be hired goons for somebody else, you go to Taskmaster and he gets you some people.
I recently read the first Taskmaster on Marvel Unlimited that Art Star made me get into. I started this whole thing where I was like, you know what? I'm going to play Marvel Snap. And the first character who I've never seen before in a comic book, I'm going to look up on Marvel Unlimited and figure out who they are. And Taskmaster was like the first character that came in the game. And I was like, I've heard of this before. I've seen it. It looks cool. And then so I read a 1980 comic book, and he seemed pretty, like, the color scheme he was...
like his original outfit, it's like a big white cape colors and a Skeletor face.
Yeah, he was just kind of dumb and lame. So I
like
this
one better. Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom video game. He's awesome character to play with.
He is, but he looked like he was like bright orange and yellow and a bunch of different colors.
The costume, the costume in this movie is taken from a more recent design,
which is cooler.
I think he had his own miniseries that was kind of he had like the skull face took on a different kind of thing. You can kind of see the skull imagery in the movie here. But
Now, of course, we have to ask this. People were mad because a woman played him. Is that right or not? I'm assuming.
possibly because like they basically took the Taskmaster mantle and put it on an original character because
I thought that was a cool way to do it. That was a
yeah,
very
yeah, it was
Yeah, I was
neat.
just
It was
saying
just
people were
surprising.
mad. It wasn't a crazy uproar. It was just little
Okay.
pockets of mad.
Well, that's good
Yeah, I
that it
don't know if
wasn't. At least it
Taskmaster has
wasn't.
a whole lot of hardcore
Maybe he
fans
doesn't
that
have a
are
lot
like
of
this.
followers. Yeah, yeah. Like you said, it's
People
not like
like
a
him.
main.
He's a cool dude. But he's he's dangerous because all he has to do is watch a Jackie Chan movie and he can do everything Jackie Chan can do. All he's
Isn't
got
he
to
one of the
do.
first bosses you face or first bad guys you face in the Avengers game? Or
Probably
no?
well, yeah. In the Marvel's Avengers game that people didn't like as much as
That
because of other
Ando
things.
has?
But
Well,
I
yeah,
do have
I
it.
love the way they presented this, and like TBJ described it as a monster. It was this lurking monster that just kept like
Mhm.
no emotion, just scary ass fucking
Frankenstein.
helmet,
Yeah.
just keeps coming, and it's just like it's like a classic horror. Like I know we've talked a lot about how these MCU movies kind of like feel like horror movies sometimes. They feel like thrillers, and there's good acting. That was it. It was just like it keeps coming, and it was really really cool.
Yeah, there's that moment where she gets locked up by Yelena, and then everything's crashing down. And at the end, Natasha's finds her and says, "I'm going to release you,
I
and
know
you're
you're
going to
gonna
come
come
after
after me.
me, and it's going to be awful, and
But she
I
needed
have
to
to
do
release
that
you." Yeah,
for
yeah,
herself to make herself
because
feel
That
better
is,
about.
and
and
it's
if you
weird because
remember,
go ahead.
sorry, I'll say this and I'll pass it off to you, Art. This is also Dreyfuss's daughter is something. If you remember the Marvels, like the first Avengers film, when Black Widow is talking to Loki, trying to get some information out of him, Loki's knows everything about Natasha, and he mentions Dreyfuss's daughter as like one of her
Oh,
biggest regrets in life.
really?
And
So they were building this back then?
yeah, they
Well, I
followed
guess
up
they
on
were,
that with
yeah.
this. Yes.
I mean, I guess they have a whole plan that we
Yeah,
don't
well,
know
you
about.
got like storytelling. Like most movies and shows that are interconnected, it's world building. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
like and it's someone who who is developing the Deborah Joe Ruffleverse. You know that something always begets something.
Yeah.
So it's like
Like the Al Powell verse.
you have to have a backstory. You always have to have a backstory. Whether or not it comes to fruition, or if anyone, it's like just your main story. You want it so if someone decides to say, "Let me do a deep dive on this." If they do a deep dive, they'll find some shit that probably makes no sense at all, but you still have a cover story. You can always
Yeah.
go back and say, "Well, the reason she's interconnected to this is because if you go back 15 years and you find this one point where she's in the store and the lady and Kate's trying to buy this gun, she sells it to her. That's why Joe Rupp is so good at that
This
90s
is
show.
just a preview for the Deborah Joe Ruppelverse
But
podcast we're working on.
what I was going to say was, and not
She shows up
necessarily
on Kate
being
and Ally.
spoilerish, but it's that whole. I feel like it's kind of a comic booky superhero thing, whereas like how Batman doesn't kill, Spidey doesn't kill. It's like you don't want to kill the person or you don't want them to die. You still want to save them, even though if they had the opportunity, they would murder the fuck out of you. Which is kind of what
That's what makes a
happens.
hero. That's
Yeah,
makes a
what
hero a
kind of
hero. Yeah.
happens. Well,
Mhm.
heroes do it, but then so do not so good guys.
Like the
It's
Sith.
always, of course, but it's like one of those
Yeah.
things where it's like, you see it a lot in movies where it's okay, this person could go down with the ship, but I have to go back and save him. We could let you die, but such and such wouldn't let you, so I gotta save you, kind of thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of good moments and a lot of acting with the eyes in this film. Like because they don't have a lot of time to sit and dwell on the emotional wreckage that this Dreykov is wreaked for everybody. Dreykov, Ray Winstone, is like a very much a small role, but it's also he's really good at being this utterly unlikable, hateable fucking creep that you can't wait till he gets his ass kicked. And he's just so like
Agreed.
yeah, and like oh,
that whole scene between he and Black Widow towards the end is a masterful scene. Like it's kind of guess what's gonna happen. You want her to win so bad, and he's so bad, but she's not backing down either. And then she just outwits him. I mean, it's just.
But it's like she like just like she did with Loki and sort of like making them think they have the advantage.
Yeah.
She looks like she's backing off a bit. She looks like she's getting hurt. She looks like she's taking everything in. And she probably is on some level.
That's how
but she's still using it to make her way around. And
I know that's how we kind of first meet her.
Yeah.
In the beginning, she's getting her ass kicked, sitting in the chair, right?
Yeah. Yes, it was a callback to that when she's like, "Thank you for your cooperation." It was almost that same. Yeah, when we first meet her, she's tied up and she's like, this guy was giving me everything. I not give you everything." And she's like, on the phone, like, "Oh yeah, he's just giving up everything." That was so great how she outwits all these old asshole men, and she did it again, and that's kind of her thing.
Yeah, thank you for cooperation was her line when Loki gave up what
oh yeah, to him and to the it's just so it's that moment of like, yeah, I got you. And then she like slams her head down to sever the nerve. Which is hard for me to handle, but
yes,
it was
yeah.
As good as ScarJo was in this, Yelena, I kind of feel like low key stole the show.
Yeah,
just because
it's definitely a showcase.
She had all of these range of emotions, just like the whole part where she was like, to her, this whole family dynamic was like
it was childhood.
So in the Thunderbolts, so this is kind of jumping. So from San Diego Comic-Con, I watched New Rockstars. They were talking about.
Did you say San Diego Comic-Con?
San Diego Comic-Con.
I know what you said. I know what you meant. I just love it. Yeah,
but it's like
San Diego.
They were talking about the trailer, and the trailer apparently there's a scene where Yelena goes to Red Guardian's house or his apartment, and she knocks on the door. When he lets her in, she calls him dad. You know,
really?
So like, and one of the main reasons she went so hard after Clint. You know, when she was chasing around Kate, because her sister was killed. Her sister was dead, and it was Clint's fault.
Right.
So like she had as hardcore as she was, to her, that little small close knit thing that they had going on in Ohio was super real to her, and I feel like there's a part of her, even when she was in the Black Widow program, that held on to that. That part probably kept her a little sane, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. There's my favorite little bit was when they're in the car and she's talking about like her first choice as an autonomous human being was to buy this cool vest with a bunch of pockets in it.
Yeah.
And they're in the car driving around, and like she's already proven she's like this real tough badass type, but there's like they're talking about that, and then like they're sort of still being a little combative with each other, and then Natasha finally admits that she does like the vest, and then she immediately becomes a little sister and goes, "Yeah, it's so cool! Look at all the it's such a cool vest. It's so great."
Well, then I don't know if you remember, but she gave her the vest at the end. She gave it to her, and now it makes me want to go watch.
In the most sisterly way, by the way. She didn't just like, it wasn't full sentimental. It was still a little bit, because I know you love it, which was very
and when she did
the whole time.
She did her move.
Yeah, when she did
when she comes down and she tries it and she's like, oh.
That was disgusting. The pose, but she makes fun of her for being a poser, and then she does a pose, and like, that's disgusting. That was hilarious. But when the vest, so I want to go back and see whatever takes place after this again to see if is that vest show up there somewhere?
Yeah,
Is she
she's wearing that in Infinity War.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I already figured that out. That saves me some time. I have a list of questions that kind of goes through the movie. If I can go through these and you guys can, some of them are serious, some of them are just things I want to mention.
We got you. But what if we said no?
Then I would be like, okay, that's it. That's all the time we have.
Spoken like a true acolyte.
No, ask away.
Okay. So the very big, so now this, I'm not even going to mention this one. I'm going to cut this one. Only because I noticed at the beginning, they're not really, I don't know, when Red Guardian and the fake mom, the fake dad in Ohio, right in the beginning, even when they're like, oh, we don't have, how much time do we have? Oh, probably an hour. Like, why would they have Russian accents at this time, or at least be like speaking in Russian? Because I guess, but it's because they don't want the audience to know what's happening yet. They want the audience.
Yeah, well, that, and you remember the oldest daughter has a clue, Scarlett, but the youngest daughter doesn't. She's still very little. She's 6, so we don't have an inkling. We know they're up to something, but we don't know full-on Russian spies.
And plus, they've been in deep cover for 3 years doing this.
Used to be in deep cover.
Have you not seen The Americans, Joe?
I was just about to say that they keep their accents when talking to each other.
They do. No, I don't.
The American. You haven't seen it with Kerry Russell?
No.
Must be a very good show.
Kerry Russell
was in Felicity. She was also the star of the original Waitress movie that the musical is based on.
Is it Kurt Russell's daughter?
No. You know her from Felicity is what you know her from.
I don't know what Felicity is.
She was on, before Felicity, she was on, what is that show? Felicity's a spinoff of the show. Well, I can't think of it right now. I'll think of it.
Well, we'll get back to
know her. If you saw
I'll look her up. I'll Google her when I'm done.
Go, oh yeah, Kerry Russell. Anyway, The
Americans. Recommend? Should I watch it?
But it also explains to you when you're in deep cover, like you stay there until you're out.
Deep cover.
Oh, she's apparently in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, which I know I saw and I do not remember anything about it.
Okay, damn it! Now I gotta look her up because it's driving me nuts. Because I know I saw that.
She was in Honey, I Blew Up the Kid in 1992, and Boy Meets World.
Oh, she does not look familiar to me at all.
Really? I feel like she was so much a part of my teens and early adulthood.
Well, she had like the really long curly hair, and then suddenly she got her entire show canceled by getting
when she did the haircut. Bless a woman for having autonomy over her own hair in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little side job. She doesn't look familiar to me at all. But I also have a big chunk of my life where I didn't see anything anywhere. I just
she was Zori
drank
Bliss.
Beers.
Pretty cool character.
She was what?
Zori Bliss in Star Wars.
Oh gosh, now I got to rewatch those. All right. Anyway,
it's a cool action figure. You should get it.
The plane getaway scene right at the beginning, when the little girl has to fly, Natasha has to kind of fly, and they're getting away from the bad guys, and he's on the wing, like hanging there. Do you think he could he breathe okay? Could he really do that? And Artstar, have you ever been in that situation?
He's a super soldier.
No. Yes.
Oh, that's right. He's a super soldier, and we don't know that yet. That's right.
And Art may or may not be a super soldier. We don't know.
Art, you might be a super soldier. I've seen him take a punishment from.
He's very secretive about life, so he could be.
Well, I've seen dance moms abuse him.
Me and Isaiah Bradley are like, we're like best buds.
That might explain why you don't have any white hair.
I do. Well,
just in your beard.
I have white hair. My grades are turning white.
How do we know you just didn't put that in there to fool us?
Purposely.
That's true.
I do. It's a part of my deep cover. I am really a Sith warlord from the planet Zendar.
All right.
Okay. Badass. Okay. Got the red powder.
That's a separate podcast, Art.
That frees Florence Pugh. I wrote Taskmaster Protocol. That's when we found out.
Yeah.
About
that's
that.
the name of it.
And I guess you kind of addressed that. This was not part of the Taskmaster story but the red room and all that was a backstory, but it
Yeah.
didn't have anything to do with Taskmaster, right? But there's a way.
Not really. I don't think Taskmaster was generally involved in Black Widow much.
They did. I thought, again, like I said, I thought that was cool. All right,
Yeah.
the badass fight scene when the ladies first meet at that apartment, like TBJ brought up, when they first see each other again and they just beat the shit out of each other. That felt very home to me because that's how Andy and I greet every Wednesday at our production meeting when we see each other.
Yeah. We have a big fight.
That whole
That
thing,
sibling fight every time.
choking each other out with a drape.
Someone
Yeah.
should be recording that. That's content.
I'm sure it's on security cameras. Art
Yes.
sees it.
Yeah. But we've had HR talk to us about it.
That's
I was
true.
about to say, I'm sure HR loved it.
Yeah, it's right next to their office and everything.
Okay, the helicopter rescue scene was fucking badass. I mean, just so many action scenes where like, holy shit, this is like the middle of the movie, and it's like, oh my god, like when they're rescuing him from the prison. My favorite part though is when Yelena starts stealing the show from me, when she's like, "We're both doing a really good job." Like, come on, stop flying, Rock, fly over here. It's like, we're both doing a really good job.
Yes.
We're both doing a really good job. That's so
Yes.
funny. Oh, I love her.
That's very good. Yeah, that was a really good the prison break avalanche. She just blows something up and didn't mean to cause an avalanche.
Yeah, the whole avalanche with all those prisoners getting killed. And then I just couldn't stop to think, man, how many of those prisoners were probably innocent?
Yeah.
There's a Russian prison, Brittany Griner, that whole thing. I was like, there could be Olympic athletes in there. It's a shame. The pig scene, the pigs. We talked about the cute little pigs.
And how nervous it was when like they were just showing the whole control over the mind control.
Not breathing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was hard to watch. But does anybody know, is the blueprint of the basal ganglia actually the hub for cognition?
I don't know that.
I'm not a neurologist.
You know, if I were to know that information, I'd be rich, and I'm not. So,
well, I just like that they
like something you could read on Wikipedia, but
they blueprinted the basal ganglia because that's the hub for cognition. I just feel smart saying that. I just want to say it one more time. All right, and then when the darts are all hitting them when they attack. Oh, before I get to that, before they start hitting him, that another moment with Yelena and David Harbour when they start singing "Bye Bye Miss American Pie," and her face as she's like partly singing it but holding back tears. That sweet moment was just a feel, got you in the feels. And then all of a sudden one dart hits him and he goes, "Oh, they think," and then like 10 more darts hit him and he falls down. Comedy gold.
He was just so good in this damn movie.
He was so good as that crazy Russian guy.
Just so damn good. I was like,
funny, fun.
It's just this guy just careening through his existence, somehow having a lot of fun in prison.
Yeah, that's right. He's a big dumb oaf.
But so there's a red carpet walk he was doing, or prepping for con. I can't remember, whatever. But they were talking to him and his co-stars, and they were like, "Who is the life of the party on set? Like, who is the most energy?" And everyone names him.
Is that right?
Everyone.
Well, as I started to say at the very beginning of this, when they had the panel for Thunderbolts, like he came out full costume.
Nice.
And it was like he had the microphone. He's like, "Wait, we all weren't dressing up?" And he was like, "So wait, I am the only one who dressed up?" And then the crowd's laughing and cheering. He's like, I'm leaving. And he just like left. But it was
I think it's the carpet for that. That's where he was going. That's his co-stars. I just didn't link it was Thunderbolts, but on the carpet, because they asked Florence Pugh, they asked Sebastian Stan, and I think they asked Wyatt Russell. But everyone's like, who is the most animated person like on the set that you wish would stop talking sometimes? And it was everyone named him.
Oh, I like that. I like it when you find out somebody's like likable in real life too.
By the way, the basal ganglia are associated with a variety of functions, including regulating voluntary motor movements, procedural learning, habit formation, conditional learning, eye movements, cognition, and emotion.
Okay. That's good. That's good.
That's
Somebody
Wikipedia.
did some good research for this movie, and using that
Well, there's some nerds who would probably look it up to see if it was actually a thing.
Yeah, I'm sure. um, I think the other thing about the helicopter scene is Yelena's like, "Oh, an avalanche too. This will be a really cool way to die." And then later, when she thinks she's actually going to die, having her brain cut out, she's like, "This is a much less cool way to die." That was kind of funny.
Yes.
She does the pose that she thinks is disgusting, and then the badass explosion scene after ScarJo gets the data download on all the widows around the world. She gets it in the last second, and then she jumps out the window with an explosion behind her and goes through it. That moment was as badass as you can get in the MCU. That's why I was thinking
Joe loves explosions.
this would have been great in the theater, but like you said, it was in the theater. I wasn't going to see movies then, but just like in my mind, I was like, people didn't like this or thought this wasn't as good. That was fucking badass.
A couple of shots. Yeah, I love the whole sky fight
and then
sequence
they're all
where
falling,
falling.
everything's falling
Yeah.
and exciting, and I mean, it was such a cool badass.
I also take in like where we were in the world when it came out.
Yeah,
we were all a little mentally unwell in a
That's
global
true.
crisis.
That's true.
So
And there were a couple of shots when Natasha and Natasha's going, "No, don't do it," and Yelena does the thing and blows up and falls back, and then they catch each other with the parachute. There are a couple of shots with some dodgy CGI around them that looked a little fakey, and for some
Really?
reason people really just a few couple of shots, but
I definitely didn't notice that at all.
Yeah.
I wasn't
but
looking for it either, but
nerds kind of hyped on those and saying, "Oh, the CGI is terrible." I'm like, no. The couple of shots probably could have used a little bit more work, but that's it.
huh. Well, maybe when I watch it the fourth time, I'll be like,
Yeah,
okay.
don't
Now
if
we
you
get
don't
to
see
the
it, don't look for it. Don't look for flaws.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We get to the epilogue, where they're going to break friends out of where she's going to break friends out of prison.
that's the very end. The epilogue is at the cemetery.
Well, that's the post-credit scene, but the epilogue where she's going and she meets that guy who gets her the jet.
Trader.
The jet.
Yeah.
Wait, who is that guy?
I was just gonna look that guy up. I forgot to look
I
him
think
up.
his name is it Baba?
Like, did they ever say, is he a character? Like, did they ever
That
say?
might
I don't
be his
remember
real
them.
name.
But she's
using his
real.
name.
Like, she seems like she like they're flirty with each other. Maybe.
I mean, if
not.
you're an international spy criminal, you got to know people in all places.
That's true. She just
And
knows
he's
somebody.
an ex
Oh, and I think they
operative.
intentionally don't say his name.
They intentionally don't reveal who he is supposed to be.
I don't think they say his name. I don't think they keep it a secret, but they don't really say his name.
Because he was kind of a likable guy.
He's playing a guy named Rick Mason, who is implied to have had a previous romantic relationship with Natasha.
Okay.
And I think he shows up again in
That does make sense, the previous romantic relationship, because there's two times where she was like, "my friend," and he's like, "Oh, just what a guy wants to hear."
Yeah.
That happens
Yeah.
twice. So
That
that
was-
alludes to there was something, and she was probably like, "Yeah, this isn't going to work for me," and then they still remain friends and did deals.
Yeah. Okay. And then
Yeah, you
the
remember Shield?
Yeah, he was a white dude in the comics. Let's see. He first showed up in 1989 in Marvel graphic novel Rick Mason, the Agent, #1.
He's just like an agent, a shield agent.
He was a mercenary who specialized in the non-lethal handling of superhumans.
Okay.
He's the son of Phineas Mason, the Tinkerer.
Oh, I remember the Tinkerer, or at least I remember that name.
Yeah, I think he was in the Spider-Man movies. I think he was one of Michael Keaton's crew. The Vulture's crew.
Yeah, the Tinkerer was that guy. Yeah, he was like.
Shit.
So he's supposed to be that guy's son. That's cool.
And I don't know if in the MCU, I don't know, but
Maybe
in
not.
the comics, that's who he was.
But you heard this on Nerd School, everybody. This is a deep dive on a secondary, tertiary character, maybe. Okay, but that brings us to that post-credit scene. And I feel like, is this like the second time we've seen Valentina, Julia Louis Dreyfuss? And she assigns her Clint, and that's what leads into Hawkeye. But who the hell is Valentina? What's the deal? And what's Like, is she ever gonna be more? Is she still in the MCU?
Yeah,
Like,
she's a big part of the Thunderbolts movie, I think.
Thunderbolt.
she is. She's like a big deal.
Valentina.
And she's also
She a villain? Is she?
also in Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, Valentina
And she's
is
also in the TV series.
Okay.
right. There's a character like she was in like she was romantically involved with the original Nick Fury. She was like a SHIELD agent who turned out to be, you know, Madam Hydra, the head of Hydra, in disguise. So she was like a femme fatale kind of thing.
He's in some of those read some old what you call it, Nick Fury issues, comics. Because I read a few of issues with that in it when I still had Marvel Unlimited.
And yeah, she's
Okay. Like, I think I read her first appearance.
La Contessa Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine is her full name. And then she makes fun of that, I believe, when she first shows up in, I think it's Falcon and Winter Soldier. As
I feel like that's
who's recruiting U.S.
We
agents.
see her, yeah.
Yeah, I know we saw her before, but this is the first appearance of her, though, right?
No, I think
for this. No, this is the first thing. Phase 4, I think.
Yeah, because this is the first Phase 4 thing, but it got delayed so often. When did? By the way, Valentina, the Contessa, was created by Jim Steranko and Joe Sinnott in May of 1968.
I feel like we saw her in Falcon and Winter Soldier and weren't like, yeah. So Falcon and Winter Soldier came out earlier in the year in like March.
Right.
So we see her at that series.
Okay.
And everybody's like, wait, what does this mean? And everybody's like, you got to wait to watch the Black Widow movie. It makes sense because Black Widow was supposed to come out
first
beforehand.
Yeah, that is correct. But it was released. Falcon Winter Soldier was released, in March, April 2021. So this was supposed to be her first appearance, but it turned out to not be.
Like, we knew that she was going to be in the MCU. We knew Julia Louis Dreyfuss was going to be something in the MCU.
Gotcha.
But we didn't quite know who or what.
And we still don't exactly know where her allegiance lies. It sort of implies that she's, you know, with the government in.
I feel like she's almost like, what's her name? Is it Sonya? Is her name Sonya? I feel like her name's Sonya. Andy would know because I'm sure Andy watched Secret Invasion.
I did, but
her name is
it's so unimpressive that
like the British operative, where it's like
the what's her name?
She does what she thinks she's doing for the good of the country, kind of thing, which is what Valentina kind of does. Which is, I think, probably going to be playing off a lot in Thunderbolts.
Right. What's her name? Olivia Colman playing Sonya Falsworth, the MI6 agent, who's working with Nick Fury as a friend of me, basically, in Secret Invasion, which was not a great series, but really kind of didn't bring home the concept. But
and the fact that it doesn't, it's one of those things where there's a lot of open-endedness that doesn't, and stuff happens, then continuation, but it's like, is it what, like, it's almost like they made it just like how we doing with Quantumania, right? We've gotten rid of Kang. So it's kind of like we easily kill Kang, even though we mentioned there are more variants of Kang. Super pivot, so you kind of sort of like what's the word I want to use? You kind of like sweep Kang under the rug, which is why the big get of RDG makes it be like, Kang who?
Yeah, here's the big San Diego Comic-Con reveal.
Yeah.
Is that apparently they got it was the casting of Doctor Doom for Avengers: The Kang Dynasty is now Avengers: Doomsday because Jonathan Majors, who played Kang, just turned out to have some problems, and they fired him. And the multiverse hasn't been hitting as well as they'd hoped. So I think they're pivoting a little bit to try to focus on Doctor Doom, who should be Marvel Comics Darth Vader. He should have that kind of presence, that kind of aura of terrifyingness. But he's going to be played, apparently, in some capacity by Robert Downey Jr., who we know as Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, who basically the force of his personality kind of made the MCU successful. So the question remains is this Victor Von Doom he's playing, which they could do it that way because you rarely ever see Doctor Doom's actual face because it's either hideously scarred or it's barely scarred and he's so vain that he covers it under the mask the whole time. He could be Doctor Doom under the mask all the time, and you never really see his face, and they can make that a mystery, and he crafts a whole different performance based on that, which he would have to very much not be Tony Stark, and because Doctor Doom is not that. But there have also been other storylines in the comics where the two characters are sort of intertwined a bit. There's been like alternate realities where there's an Iron Doom, which is like Tony Stark with Doctor Doom's cloak, and he's like a dictator Iron Man. Like they could do a what if Tony Stark went bad and they find some other reality where Tony Stark's iron outfit became, it's like he might as well just be Doctor Doom because they're both guys who wear suits of armor all the time.
So they could, with so many storylines about Doctor Doom and Iron Man, and they introduce a multiverse, they could really do anything.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, it could be anything. And they introduced him, the Russo brothers. That's the other thing, is the guys who directed the last two Captain America movies and Infinity War and Endgame, who brought it all home for him, are coming back to direct these next two Avengers films.
Well, here's the thing, Art. What are you going to say?
Well, they introduced him as like a part of the multiverse, which is why I think they're going to do some kind of evil Tony Stark arc.
But I don't think, I feels like, again, it's one of those things where we're supposed to, which I don't think if they do this, people adore because people's memories are really long. We're supposed to have short-term memories when it comes to these type of things. Like, not to spoil, but there are things where there have been people who've came back and not be who they was, but it still leaves them in the world. So it could, whereas like you said, like maybe he never takes the mask off. But like even if he does, someone does see him without the mask, the fact that he has a mask on, like Kylo, when he has his mask on, he sounds a little bit different than Ben. So it's like you give, like, he doesn't have to be like Robert Downey Jr. was in this new show called Sympathizer, where he played like a CIA dude. And it was like the first time I'd seen him in a long time in something where I didn't think Tony Stark. Right. Like he was still kind of snarky, but he didn't, like his face was completely shaven. He was all wrinkly and kind of made to look older. But I knew it was Robert Downey Jr. and it didn't come off as Tony Stark.
So he can do other things. Yeah,
absolutely.
He can act. Yeah.
The way they introduce him as Doctor Doom, when he takes the mask off, he has very little no facial hair, and he looks a little older, right? So you don't get the whole like everything see every time you see him, you see the trim goatee and beard. You think,
he is older. Stark. He's what 60s now, right?
But he did just win an Oscar for Oppenheimer as well.
Yeah. Even in that, you don't get Tony Stark. So,
but then he immediately put the Tony Stark sunglasses on.
Yeah. But
but that's at an event, you know.
Yeah. He was having they already broke out in chants for his name.
And we all know Marvel did this as a strategic move, right? Because they're trying to get the excitement back, and everybody knew. Well, it was exciting when we had him,
here's where I was going.
Yeah.
Because they've pivoted from Quantum Mania, and they've been the multiverse low key kind of did this thing. This movie that you guys haven't seen kind of did its thing. It's almost like, so, and then the next phase after this, it's going to be called basically the mutant version. The mutant saga is what they're prefacing it as.
Sure.
So it's like we're starting to introduce mutants who were in other universes that isn't in the sacred timeline.
Okay.
So while you do have like the multiverse, and we've also, if you watch which I think is it the next one or the final one? Whatever, you have the convergence coming. So you have worlds becoming, basically, I feel like at some point we're all gonna just be on the sacred timeline.
Right. I think like the end game is that somehow Doom is involved in converging all the timelines into one, and then all the best stuff from all the multiverses kind of available.
And long story short, in my opinion, Robert Downey Jr. is Victor Von Doom and not a Tony Stark variant. That's just the way I feel like he will be Victor Von Doom. He won't be,
Well, we're in an existence without Iron Man right now, right?
But here's another thing. Here's another thing. Here's another thing.
We got Ironheart.
The CW. The Arrowverse. In the Arrowverse, we had. I'm going.
Wait, you're going to talk about a bow and arrow guy?
No, I'm going somewhere. So the original, like Guy Gustin's Flash, his dad was played by
John Wesley Shipp, who played Flash in the 1990 series.
Let me finish, Ando.
Wait, let him finish it because
he was the original Flash from the original Flash TV series, right?
Wait, there was when was it? The 90s there was a Flash show?
Yeah, it was the 90s in the Flash.
90, I think.
Yeah. So he played Barry's dad in the Arrowverse.
Okay.
He dies.
Right.
They bring him back. Same face. He's not Barry's dad, but he is
Jay Garrick.
Jay Garrick.
Who's Jay Garrick?
The original Golden Age Flash.
Right.
When he was originally
so you're saying in the comics there was two Flashes, different names.
There's like
there are multiple Flashes.
5 Flashes now.
Oh god. Hot Flashes?
What I was trying to say is
I'm having hot flashes.
The Arrowverse did a lot with the multiverse. But you had Barry's dad come back, not play Barry's dad. There was Harrison Wells in the show. He was also Eobard Thawne, but not Eobard Thawne.
Yeah.
So it's like you're having the same character with the same face, but they're playing someone totally different in the same universe, being pulled from a multiverse. But then you also had people who, like, in one universe may have had powers, but now in this universe did not have powers.
But
Deadpool and Wolverine plays this too.
Do you hate that?
I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
So, and that's why I'm sitting there saying it's one of those things where Robert Downey Jr. came back, but he doesn't, like, Tony Stark was killed off. We don't necessarily have to bring Tony Stark back and say, okay, this is Tony Stark, but he's a villainous version of Tony Stark or an industrialist version of Tony Stark who happens to be Dr. Doom. It could be Victor Von Doom, who just so happens to be played by the same actor who got killed off in the show as the same person. I mean, not the same person, as a different character.
So
that could be.
But also could be John Blake, Drake Hogestine, Roman.
It could be.
My worry, though, I hope that's the case. I hope he's just doing Victor Von Doom and they do a great job and they've surprised us before and then it's possible.
In a perfect world, he'll be Victor Von Doom, and if they did want to bring back Tony Stark, it'd be Tom Cruise.
No.
That is not a perfect.
Don't do that. I was being quiet and letting you spit for a while, and then you had to bring up the name.
Gotta bring time in it.
Don't do that.
No. But the concern I have is that one, like I said, he's got to have a Darth Vader kind of presence. And the problem with Doctor Doom in the previous two Fantastic Four movies, he looked great, but he was played by Julian McMahon, who had a very sort of snide little asshole voice kind of thing, and just that's not. And RDJ's, I don't know if he's got the sort of thunder that Doom kind of needs to.
It needs to be James Earl Jones.
Yeah, except James Earl Jones is a little can't quite do it anymore, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, but like somebody had to have that kind of presence, that kind of voice, and I don't know what RDJ's vocal range is for that.
Maybe he goes the Christian Bale route, and he has to do this whole weird thing with his voice the entire time.
Yeah, the Batman voice.
And the other concern I have is that like they have done a lot during Tony Stark's era of taking other characters that had really nothing to do with Tony Stark and kind of tying them in and making them part of Tony Stark stories. Like Mysterio had nothing to do with Tony Stark, and now his whole entire motivation is that Tony Stark is a dick.
Yeah,
and there's like a Spider-Man, was usually very independent of, like, has little to do with Iron Man most of his career, other than they eventually are Avengers and stuff together. And now Spider-Man is like a protege of Tony Stark and stuff. So like there are like
Civil War. Are you forgetting Civil War? Because you hate it? Because you hate Civil War comics?
Yeah, I don't like the comic story very much now.
Well, let me just ask.
Where he basically goaded Peter into revealing himself.
Yeah.
I love how we've gotten so far away from Black Widow. We're so close.
Let me just ask.
Well, this was the news we talked about.
Widow.
It's the news of the day. We're being topical.
It's a new segment, and don't want to introduce.
I'd love for us to wrap Black Widow and then be topical.
Yeah, we should. Should I or should I not go to every movie in the future with Robert Downey Jr. and just yell, "He's Iron Man, not Dr. Doom"?
You should.
Yeah, just go to Oppenheimer and yell that. And
that's Iron Man.
Go watch Chaplin, where he played Charlie Chaplin.
Well, he was in Weird Science too, which is the greatest movie of all time. But I love this movie. What does everybody else think?
I liked it.
I
very much enjoyed it.
Women kicking ass, I'm in.
Yep. Yeah, it was long overdue that Black Widow got her own movie.
So none of us were like, stupid women. We hate women.
If any of you were, we would not be talking right now. You know it.
That's good.
But yeah, it was a blast.
Yeah, it was great. This was a good movie. I feel like it's underrated. I feel like people don't talk about this movie ever.
It came at a weird time. And,
I feel like
I think it's just
after she had already died in Infinity War. So
yeah.
But
it's also, I mean, they've done that when you have like all of like how they went and they did Captain Marvel, like after it's already been a few years, and so now you're taking us back to the 90s.
Well, I like how they've done this with everybody's like little backstory, like Falcon Winter Soldier. Here's their whole life, because we don't have time to get into those two guys in the movie, like you guys said. Here's WandaVision, because you can't get that into. I love how they're doing all these things, and this was great. I'm hoping this ages kind of like a lot of these things that when people aren't ready for it, maybe, or it wasn't. The timing with the world was bad when it came out, but hopefully people remember this as a really good one, because I really, really enjoyed it. Like there wasn't a lot of the movies, there's parts where I'm like, kind of bored and whatever. There was none of that for this one. Like it was solid the whole time. Like just and really also good because action and
it's kind of and I guess you kind of get this with the first Black Panther movie. Panther movie. Yeah. So
it was like that for me. Yeah.
It's like you have, even though we know he, bullets and things bounce off of him or whatever, it's like it's not really rooted in superheroism and costumes and capes and things like that. It's somewhat ground level. so it reads more like an action movie and not necessarily, and not saying it's a bad thing, but not necessarily a comic book movie.
Yeah, like a buddy action. It was kind of like a buddy cop movie because they're like partners and they're together and they're play off each other.
Which is where like the very first couple of seasons of like Daredevil was, Luke Cage, like you get, and this is before they were MCU adjacent, but you get like, okay, these are comic book characters, but it's still just like they're kicking ass, they're doing all of this stuff, and it's not so much focused on their powers and stuff, but more so on the story as opposed to explosion, 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 fly away, explosion, explosion, explosion. You have a Hulk, we have a Thor. It's like it was
not all that stuff as much. Yeah, but so this is great. Great movie. I love it. Might go watch it again.
And this was the first film in Phase 4, but at this point we'd already had, in 2021, we had WandaVision was the first Phase 4 thing. Then the Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision came out in January of 2021. Then Falcon and Winter Soldier was March, and then Loki season 1 was in June, and then we got this.
And everybody can go back and listen to our takes on those TV shows because we talked with them.
Yeah, I think we talked about all of them. Did we talk about Loki too? Yeah, I think so.
We did.
A little bit,
we did, because I talk about Loki on his knees.
I feel like we stopped after Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And then like when Moon Knight and all them came out, we kind of like
it got too much. It got overwhelming.
Yeah, we decided to wait.
Yeah, we got through Hawkeye, but I think we stopped with Moon Knight. So we did do Loki, although I'm interested in what you think.
We talked about
now
Loki.
That you
I have very
watched
clear
the MCU.
conversations.
Yeah, I would like to read.
But that was before
all about Sylvie and Loki and his
I watched it again since, and now I get it. Like now it's way better. The second time I watched it after I caught up with everything, I was like, oh my God. Oh, this is way better. Now
it fits in.
I know what's happening. Yeah, it's like I understand way more. And same thing with rewatching all the watching Hawkeye. Then was way better after watching this, and watching whatever we've watched. Watching WandaVision the second time was way better for me. Again, I need to watch everything through. I'm convinced 3 times for me to get it. Because I'm a dumb guy. I even had to pause this one and be like, dumb guy here, can't remember what was happening. Siri, what was this? What was happening here? And whoops, I just awakened Siri. But and Siri was like, you dumbass, it was this. This is what happened. And so but
chronologically, the next thing in Phase 4. Sorry, I'll get back to
Shang-Chi's next, right?
Shang-Chi is the next movie. That was September of 2021. The What If series, the animated series, also came out in August. And the Hawkeye series came out in November of 2021. And
what's our
Shang-Chi is the next. Shang-Chi would be the next movie.
We'll talk about Shang-Chi next. Okay.
And then Eternals would be after that.
Oh, joy.
And Shang-Chi has a comedian too, Aquafina.
Yes.
Who is a comedian.
She's like so much more than a comedian, but yes.
And we get that.
Oh, well, I only know her as a comedian.
And we get Trevor back.
Her OG roots are music.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, I'll have to look that
comedian,
up.
But some of her really good shows are when one of her movies, which is so good, is her not being a comedian.
Really?
She's actually very talented.
Okay, well,
she's funny, but she's also
I was thinking when I watched Shang-Chi the first time, I was thinking, I want a movie with just the funny secondary people in it, like
Kat Dennings,
Kat Dennings, the T.I. and the Russian guy from Ant-Man that are like those.
Oh yeah,
the comedy relief people,
Louis,
and then I wish there was just a movie with just all the.
You should get that. You should get all the. Kat Dennings doesn't have an action figure, and T.I. them doesn't. But you can get Luis and
T.I. doesn't have one, but Luis does.
No, you can get what's his name? Why can't I think of Park's real name? Why can't I think of his name? And
Jimmy Woo.
Jimmy Woo, yeah. Get the
Jimmy
Jimmy.
Woo's funny, yeah.
If you go to Ollie's has it for like $9 or something. Like Jimmy Woo. You get a Jimmy Woo action figure.
Okay. All right, but we got to end this now so our listeners don't get mad and hang up. But oh, quick. Also, come to listeners, I don't know if you guys saw the YouTube comment we got. Somebody commented on our YouTube the Heroes Con recap. They were liked, and then the next one, new subscriber. I got to bring up the name, and they commented and said, "I've been to 2 Heroes Cons, and you guys are my favorite thing about Charlotte Heroes Con."
Aww,
I
love it.
Yeah, so
fantastic.
I was gonna give the name check once I gotta log into the right.
Yes, find it so we can do a shout out.
Second. It'll take me 1 second.
You can do it, Joe. You can do it.
You should have been prepped with this, Joe.
Yes, I forgot about it that I was gonna do this.
Shame.
We got 2 new subscribers this week. Immerstall, whoever that is, and P Valor is the person's name. At P Valor on YouTube. Peter Velez.
Well, thank you, P Valor.
Peter Velez.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Peter Velez.
Shout out to Peter. You get a nerd.
Thank you for listening. Thanks for the comment. Thanks for liking Nerd School and meeting us in person.
Thanks for seeing us at the con. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Peter participated in the Family Feud. Because the one, I don't know if you remember the one, because some of his videos I think are of him performing in an improv troupe, and I think there was somebody there that said they did improv.
Well, if he's listening, he can shout us and tell us.
Yeah, shout us out, Peter, and we'll have you as a guest. If you make a comment, you'll be a guest. Well, maybe not, but
it's hard enough to get all 4 of us in a room.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Everyone will just start commenting.
Yeah, but we'll see you next year at Heroes Con, Peter. Thank you for loving us and subscribing us and liking us. And all of you can listen on YouTube as well, because all of our episodes are published there now. So
we're everywhere. You can't get
everywhere.
Rid of us.
Yep. Thanks for listening, everybody. And now TBJ will sing.
She will say later, nerds.
Yeah. TBJ loves you guys.
Click.
I do love the people. I'm just not saying that word.
Nerd School Podcast.
Good night, everybody.
History for Jerks.
Good night, Gracie.
Rap about the president no more, but evidently they don't see we in the streets still poor. Still more incarceration of my kinsmen by the prisons, and people thinking this election to end it race.
The Nerd School Podcast is a product of History for Jerks and a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more about History for Jerks at historyforjerks.com. Check out the Gruff and Loud Show on YouTube, a show with 2 jackass Gen X dudes drinking beer, smoking weed, and rambling about pop culture. Also, check out the American Timelines podcast featuring Joe and Amy. It's true crime meets history and pop culture. There's also a dumb t-shirt shop on Threadless created by History for Jerks. You can buy a Gordon Jump shirt or an Edie McClurg shirt. It's really dumb and stupid.